Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie. You might know me as Honestly Mommy, and if you do, that's just fine. So today I want to do a really super quick kind of like tutorial how-to video on how to do your own baby photos at home. I've shared a couple different sessions that I've done with sweet little Sammy here. I've just been having fun taking some newborn shots at home, wasting some time, just, doing all the things. And I had a lot of people asking me for tips on how to do it, what I'm using, and really I am using a very simple camera. It's a Sony 5100, so it's a decent camera, but it's not like photography quality or anything like that. And then I've just been brightening them a little bit on my iPhone using the Lightroom app. So I wanted to walk you through really quickly what I do just to give you a better idea of how you can get some really nice shots of your baby at home. First things first, you're going to want to go ahead and gather any materials you might want. For Sammy, I did headbands. I've done a session with some of my husband's police gear. I did a couple of funny quarantine style photo shoots. So think ahead, plan it out a little bit, grab any props that you might want, any outfits you might want, and then another really important thing before you get started is to make sure that baby is fed. So I just fed her, which is why she's spitting up on me a little bit right now, but if they're fed, they're happy. And then depending on whether or not you're planning to get sleeping photos or awake photos, obviously you're going to want to watch for that sleep window. Now, I don't really care right now for the purpose of this video, but since she just ate, I would probably wait another half an hour if I was going to try and get sleeping photos so that she's more in that drowsy stage. And then you want to get them nice and sleepy before their photos. But for today, I'm going to do some wide awake ones just for the fun of it because I actually kind of prefer those. Anyhow, something else that you really want to take note of is getting good lighting. So in my bedroom, I have these huge windows, and as you can see, it's all white in here, so that really reflects the light well. If you have anything like a ring light like that, obviously that's super helpful, but I know most people probably don't have that on hand. So just make sure that you find some windows, or even if you have a day this week coming up that you know it's going to be nice and sunny outside, go for a day like that. I open my curtains wide, and then typically I would set up right here, where the sun is coming directly in and just lighting everything really, really well. So look for good natural lighting if at all possible. When you start using things like flash and stuff, it throws off the lighting, it makes things more glaring. Definitely want natural light. For today's little mini photo shoot, I am going to do something I call a white session. I've done these with all of my babies. All it is white. I just use a white blanket, which is going to be my comforter here. And then I take a white onesie and throw it on them. And I do these once a month. So each month, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, or whatever. And these are kind of like my monthly photos that I do. I like the simplicity of them because when you line them all up and put them next to each other, you can really see how much baby grows and change, and you're not distracted by different outfits or different poses or whatever. So this is a super simple layout that I'm going to do today, but I'm going to go ahead and get it set up right here. All right, so the reason that I have it up here is because when you're taking photos, obviously you want to get as big of a space as possible so that depending on what angle you're taking the photos from, you're not catching a bunch of extra stuff. Because now while it's pretty easy to edit out a little corner or something like that, if you're catching a whole wall on the side of the photo, it's probably not going to look very nice. So try to give yourself a decent size to work with. And now you can use this with any blanket. The police shoot that I did the other day, I wanted kind of a matching look, so I found a black blanket that I had at home and I set that up as my backdrop. So just find something you can use, stools, chairs, anything that you can throw the blanket over to create a nice backdrop in the back. And then also if you have a young baby, like a newborn, which Sammy's almost 6 weeks, so she's pretty old at this point. You can use pillows like this and put them under the blanket here to create a nice cushy space that also allows you to situate them a little bit better. And since Sammy's pretty big, I'm not super worried about it, so I'm just gonna lay her flat on the ground. But again, for like a newborn, well, I might just show you that really quickly. Hold on. So for a newborn, if you go ahead and put the 2 pillows here, you've got this nice divot that you can either lay them in, you can put their butt in, that type of stuff. It gives them a nice cushy place to lay, and also helps you position their body a little bit better. Okay, because she is fed and not looking to go to sleep right now, she's actually pretty content. But then, of course, as I said that, I put her onesie on and she got a little fussy. So we are going to go fast and see what kind of photos I can get. Grumping a little bit, that's totally okay. She's been fed, so she's not hungry or anything. So basically, I'm just gonna get her passy, pat her, help soothe her, get her to calm down. But I put her kind of in the position I want her to be in. I want to do a tummy set first. So yeah, just put them in the position you want them to be in, and then try and help them calm down a little bit. If they need a passy or something, where you can just pat on, do the shusher. Shh. I'm just going to wait for her to calm down a little bit. And I'll probably pull it out really quick, take some shots, so make sure that you have your camera at the ready so you can get your shots really, really quickly. Also, while they're calming down, if you want any of like the cute butt shots or whatever, I'm not using that pillow, so I'm going to move it. You can position their little feet one on top of the other, just like that. And those can end up being some really cute shots. So while they're trying to calm down, if you want shots that don't include their face, with like the binky in it, or maybe you don't care if they have a passy in it, I don't know, go for it. You could do some other shots, like take pictures of their feet or something like that. So that's kind of cute. Another quick tip here is to stick your feet under the blanket, just so you don't catch them in the shot. I like to kind of hide myself under the blanket like that, and then go ahead and be up here, and then, so obviously it gives you a really nice working surface because my feet aren't anywhere near there, and I don't have to worry about catching them. And look at how pretty she is. Okay, if you want to do something kind of fun, like do some swaddle shots or something like that, that's where I would highly suggest having the 2 pillows, because she's so young, she rolls from side to side, and so that'll help me position her a little bit better. So I'm going to show you how to do one of those really quickly. I'm going to leave her in her onesie, but if you're doing these for more official, like baby photos, then I probably would take her onesie off. But for the sake of this, so she doesn't get super grumpy with me taking clothes on and off, I'm going to leave it. Okay, so typically for photos like this, especially when you're using a natural light source, make sure that their face is facing the light, or like, whatever you want the light focus on is facing. If you need to prop their head up more, like under the pillows, I'm going to use these to prop these pillows up a little bit more underneath her to keep her head up and her body a little bit more down. All right, baby. To remember with baby photos, to give yourself grace, give baby grace, because now of course she's ready to nap, and so she's getting a little grumpy, and so we just going to take a break, and I've done this every time that I've done it. If she gets a little bit fussy, we just take 10-20 minutes. I rock her, I soothe her, hopefully get her to sleep or drowsy or whatever. So just make sure that you're taking good breaks if your baby's getting grumpy at all, to calm them down and soothe them a little bit. While I'm patting, I'll also sit here and add, if you don't have Photoshop skills, this is not the time to try like a composite photo. I know we've all seen the pictures of the newborns with their hands up, you know, on either side of their face, and super cute, super precious. The problem with those photos are they are a composite photo that photographers put together, as in they are photoshopped. I've done one of those with a photographer before for Aurora, and you know, her little hands were up, but I was holding her, and so I would hold one side, move my hand, the photographer would take a picture, and then I would put my other hand back, move my other hand, and the photographer would take a picture, and then she photoshopped them together to get that final composite, because obviously, you know, we want to keep babies safe and support their head and their neck. So unless you have pretty good photoshopping skills, I do not recommend anything like that. And somebody to help you. You know, I'm doing these all by myself. I'm not trying any wild poses or shots. I'm just taking some really sweet, cute, careful things that I can use in her baby album, or, you know, you can maybe put on a card or send to friends, or that just I can, you know, use to pass the time and share how beautiful she was when she was 5 and some weeks old. So just be careful with your poses. Make sure you're not doing anything too intense. And if you don't have photoshopping skills, then I would just highly recommend keep it simple. Keep it simple. If you want to get sleeping photos, and if they're ready to go to sleep, sometimes just brushing your fingers really lightly over their eyes and down their nose will help them shut their eyes. She's not quite ready to go to sleep yet, so I don't think I'm going to get any sleeping photos today. But that's okay. We did our best. I'm going to call it quits just because I do think I got a couple of cute shots. And like I said, I'm not looking for full baby photos. This one was just a monthly update, so I can remember her at this stage of life. So I'm going to let this little peanut go to sleep, and I'm going to upload these to my phone and get to editing. And I truly think editing is the place that changes it from like a normal photo on mom's camera roll to a little bit more professional looking photo. So I will walk you through the process of what I do while I edit photos. Okay, so I already went through my photos and chose a few that I like. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up Lightroom. Go in here, if you switch it to favorites, it pulls up the 3 that I liked the best. So I'm gonna go ahead and edit this one first. So I do have my own set of presets that I use on my feed pretty regularly, which that one's not a horrible, but for photos like this, because I want them to look pretty natural, I'm gonna actually probably hand edit them. So first I'm gonna start in the light with light. I wouldn't highly suggest using the curve unless you know what you're doing, because as I can show you here, if you mess with it too much, see how it really tweaks things a lot. So unless you know what you're doing, maybe just leave the curve alone. Okay, so we're going to do that. So we're going to leave the curve alone. I'm going to mess with the exposure, contrast, all that good stuff. Right off the bat, I'm going to brighten my exposure just a little bit. Definitely don't overdo it. I think a big mistake is often to overexpose. I'm going to bring up the contrast a little bit. And you can kind of play with some of these and see what you think. See how the highlights, that kind of goes to my white areas. I actually do like the highlights brightened quite a bit. Her face was in the shadows for this one because I didn't take my own advice and I didn't face her towards the light. So I'm going to brighten the shadows a bit. See how much of a difference that made on her face? It just brightens her face. And then also the whites, if you want to pop the whites, but you need to be careful because if you look at the glare on her face, see how much, if I do it too much, it whitewashes my photo and it actually makes her face really glaring. So I am probably going to leave those alone on this particular photo. And then usually when you bring the shadows up, it can make things a little bit dusty looking. So if you bring your blacks down a little bit, if you kind of make them more saturated, it brings in those nice dark colors again. Okay, I'm still leaving the exposure alone. I'm going to come back to that later. I like my photos on the cooler tones. If you look at this, see how my comforter, you don't even notice it totally, but if you cool it down, it looked yellow. So it is a white comforter, but see how when you cool it, it actually makes the colors very crisp. So I'm going to cool my temperature down just a little bit, but I am going to bring the tint to the purple side because that can help. See how it warms it up still? So it has a warm, cool look to it. Vibrant. See, now if you do it too vibrant, obviously that is not a good look for my baby, but you don't want to suck the color out of her either. So I like to bring up the vibrance just a little bit compared to the saturation. See what saturation is. Obviously, if you want black and white, that's great. Or if you want like an undersaturated look, that can be fun too. But I don't mess with the saturation much because as you can tell, it doesn't do great things. So I'm just going to bring up the saturation a tiny bit. Also, if you look in the top right hand corner where it says mix, if there is a specific color in your photo that you are not digging, let's just say the blue in those flowers. I don't have any blue in my house and I hate it. You can remove the blue. See how what that did? You can brighten the blue, you can remove the blue. I try not to play with colors too much. The only one that I usually take out a little bit of is the yellow, again, because it makes my white photos more crisp. Which this one's not too bad because we already changed the temperature on it. But yes, so even her bow looks a little bright to me right now. So I'm going to bring that down just a tiny bit. And then I don't think I'm going to mess with any of the other colors. Okay, so that is color. If you go into effects, I like to bring up the clarity just a bit. And I also like to bring up the dehaze, which on this one, I'm not sure. Well, just a bit. I'm going to leave it. I don't mess with those much. Doesn't need to be sharpened because I actually have a nice, a decently nice camera, so I don't need that. Split toning, again, the upper right-hand corner. This is one that you probably want to leave alone unless you're fairly comfortable. This is going to take the highlights and turn them a color. See what that does? Obviously, you would never go that high. But even if you just bump it up a tiny bit, see how that kind of added a pink, adds a little bit of a pink to my photo. Adds a little bit of blue to my highlights. So this is, see what that did? So it brought a cooler tone overall to it. This is what a lot of people on Instagram play with. Just a quick tip here to get their very color saturated presets. They'll take and do something like that. And then you can even bring the shadows and see how that makes it more of that golden orange tone you see on Instagram a lot. Again, I would not highly recommend this unless you know what you're doing. I don't play with split toning a lot because I like to keep my photos pretty natural looking, like more everyday colors. But that's totally up to you and what you like. Gosh, and I think that's probably all I'm really going to do for this one. And then here's the before. Woo! And the after. Before, after. You can go back at the end if you feel like it needs to be a little bit brighter or not. I don't want to oversaturate. So you can always come back here, and mess with things again. Just make sure that maybe you're checking now and again to see the difference, to see if you like what you're doing. Okay, so I'm going to go like that, and I'm going to save it. All right, let's go open another one. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my favorites again. Wow, look at the difference there. So that obviously looks a lot brighter than the photos that came straight out of my camera roll. So let's go back to favorites. Let's do this one. I like this one. She's so sweet. Okay, so that one was pretty simple. Now, if your baby has a little bit of let's just say baby acne or something you want to get rid of, I also do like the healing tool in Lightroom. So didn't mean to do that. So you can zoom way in and let's say, I couldn't even really notice these in the pictures, but in professional photos, they do usually get rid of the baby acne and stuff. So if that's something you want to do, you can go ahead and zoom in and do that. Another thing you can do if you want to is just edit selective areas. So let's say I want back there to be a little bit brighter. I can go ahead and do that. Or even so you can get rid of, you know, some of the wrinkles or something. So I'm going to take the shadows way up so it blurs it out a little bit more, makes it more of the focus on baby and less on my blanket. Which if you bring the sharpness down, so on something like this, see, I would never want to bring the texture up because I'm trying to help you not focus on the wrinkles. So when I bring the texture down, it actually blurs out the background like that. So let's do that again up here in this corner. We're going to bring the light up just a little bit. We're going to bring the shadows up. And then I also am going to get rid of the texture, clarity. So when you get rid of all those things, ooh, see, that was too much because we didn't want to bring it up into her hand like that. But if I do it just like that, it actually helps you really focus on baby and not on the blanket. All right, so we're going to do one last photo from my session. I'm going to do this little middle photo. It's so cute. She's smiling. I hope this helped you just a little bit, even give you some confidence on positioning or editing your photos. Again, I think editing is what takes it to the next level for photos. So often we're just used to very typical fresh out of the camera photos, which there's nothing wrong with that either, but just in case maybe you aren't able to get into a photographer to get some newborn photos, or if you want to do like a fresh 48 for yourself or something fun like that, I hope this gives you some of the tools you need to do a little bit better photos.